smart enough to know how to play the game, but dumb enough to think that it matters. And, you know, so many times, situations, circumstances, the things that we focus our life upon, and many times, they're just earthly, carnal things. In the long run, don't really matter. Now, that doesn't mean for our players or even the coaches at basketball game at Albion against Elba last night, doesn't matter. It does to a degree, but there are things that should matter more that are on a higher plane. Last night in our game, first quarter, and again, I talk about these things because it's what I know, okay? I can make the connections and the analogies. In our game, the first quarter, we got up, we were leading in the first quarter by about 11 points, 25, 13, 14, something like that. We're blowing them out. Things were working well. The X's and O's, and by X's and O's, I mean just drawing up the plays, what you're supposed to do, where this person's supposed to go and that person, etc. Well, by the second quarter, the team would begin to figure it out and begin to alter their defense a bit based on what we were doing. And so they began to catch up. And I said to the other coach, I said, you know, sometimes the X's and O's aren't enough. And most of the time, we're going to make an analogy here to life, the X's and O's, just the normal way we're supposed to do things, aren't enough in and of themselves. And there are some kids as basketball players that just know how to move without the ball, how to get themselves open. It has nothing to do with what we put on the chalkboard, where person A is supposed to go and person B. It's about what we say, just play the game. We're going to make an analogy here of how sometimes we get bogged down in the X's and O's of life and we miss the bigger picture, and because of it, we don't play the game very well and we seem to be losing the game. Luke chapter 8, we'll start in the second part of verse 42. It says this: as he went, this is Jesus, as he went, the people pressed round him. And a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years, and had spent all of her living upon physicians, and could not be healed by anyone, came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment, and immediately her flow of blood ceased. Mind of this woman. She's dealing with an issue in her life. Now, for you, it's probably not an issue of blood. For you, it's something else. But there is something else that all of us can fill in the blank, whether it seems that big or not. And this woman was pouring a disproportionate amount of her resources, physically, monetarily, as well as I'm sure emotionally, into trying to deal with this particular problem, which happened to be physical. Now, some of us may have issues that are physical. Some of us may have, most of us may have issues that are more emotional in the way we think. And we're spending resources on these things that the world has told us we need to do. Here comes a man. And of course, this is the answer for us as well. The man God, Jesus Christ passing through. Now keep in mind there are throngs around him. It's not easy to get to him. Again, another analogy for us in life, the answer spiritually is not always an easy one. There is a pressing that we need to do to get to Jesus. There is a work, so to speak, to touch the hem of his garment, which she did, and immediately she's healed. Many of us still flounder with the same physical and or emotional issues for years, and many of us more than 12, like this woman dealt with. And so there's a disconnect someplace. We're spending disproportionately, just like I think about basketball, disproportionately over these 3-4 winter months. We, I think, many times disproportionately are spending energy that is of this realm versus energy that is of a heavenly or divine realm, which ultimately is our answer. Even though we know that touching his garment is the thing that is going to help us through this, that will solve the problem. The woman, all our carnal efforts end in failure. And why is that? Because our carnal efforts have no power in bringing results. Our carnal effort will never be the answer for us. It does not have the power to do it, and we must partake in the divine We must touch the hem of his garment in order for those limits, those tangible things, to be set aside and to get to a plane where we can win the game in a spiritual manner. There is always more for us as believers. There is always more of an answer. All things are possible to those that believe. And if we are believers, then all things are possible. That's a very simple philosophical statement. It is not just Christianity in the church. And too many of us think that this book relates only to what we do on Sunday morning and getting up and reading your Bible and praying. It is beyond that. It is beyond just relationships. It has everything to do with all facets of our life, all facets of our society, whether it's law, whether it's education, whether it's monetary policy. Yes, believe it or not, government, all of that finds its answer right here. And we cannot be ignorant of that. What's the point of all this? The woman with the issue of blood was doing things that seemed logical to her. She took what she had, she spent it just the way that it seemed appropriate to do. But she needed a touch from heaven, didn't she? She needed a divine touch. And so often, I think we as a church neglect the divine aspect of our relationship with the Lord in every area of our life. Here's an example, and we see this many times in maybe with like a word of wisdom or word of knowledge in your life. You know, if you find yourself right now kind of stuck in a situation where you don't see an answer, and you spent your resources, whether monetarily or otherwise, probably emotionally, on this issue, and nothing's changing, then you need to touch the hem of the garment. And that's where we need to tap into the treasures from heaven, which are hidden in Jesus Christ, as we read earlier. This message is about, spiritually, what are you doing with your life? Are you living at this plane, the failure, or at this plane? If things don't change, if you don't do it differently, you will forever be stuck in that situation that you're in. And again, this isn't just about physical. More than that, this is an emotional thing for us. We are emotionally trapped. Not because there is no answer. There is an answer. Every single time it's Jesus Christ. But we are looking to the things of this world to find the answers to our problems. And it's interesting. Even those that are creative many times get caught in this mentality. Thomas Edison, great inventor, believed that all major inventions had been accomplished in his time. Okay? We can have victories in our life and then settle for those experiences and never get to a new place. And every morning that we wake up, there is a new place for us to go. Too often, we relax and settle for where I am because that was a nice victory, a nice spiritual win for me. Our team could relax because we won last night and go out on the floor the next game Tuesday against Medina when they come and get our tails whipped. Because we think we're something we're not. Because we're resting on a plan. You know, we can do that as a church. We look around and say, well, everybody else got problems. Everybody else is a little, you know, emotionally disturbed or hurting in this area or that area. And so we settle for it. We think that's just the way it is then. I guess that's just part of being a believer. And you know what? Suffering and hardship is part of being a believer. But joy in the midst of that is also part of it. And we cannot just wallow in the problem.
My chains are gone.